SaberSim, for those of you who aren't familiar, SaberSim is a DFS optimizer and projection system used by some of the top DFS players in the industry. It provides some of the best ownership and scoring projections on the market, and now you will have a chance to bundle it with an RPS subscription for our low price. For a limited time only, you'll get both Rumpure's great content along with the SaberSim product and projections, typically valued over $190 a month, combined for our low cost just by using the promo code SABER15BIGT. How dope of a deal is this?
This is going to be the best deal in the industry. It's going to get you all the content on the site and the optimizer. So you got a nice intro price. This also includes the bet side, which we have one of the best bets teams in the industry. Also, the optimizer is going to be accessed directly on the site now. And eventually, we're even going to have the core plays directly on the optimizer within the next couple of weeks. So another really nice bonus.
All right, so why don't you show us how quick you can knock out over 150 lineups using the SaberSim optimizer?
Yeah, this optimizer is going to be very nice on the site. Tons of new options. If you want to look at the screen, we got SaberSim projections, RPS projections right next to each other. You have options like being able to do the average of both, which is nice. Obviously, I like the Rumpure projections, but the SaberSim projections are awesome too, and it gives you a nice balance between the two to form some of your own opinions, which I love to do. As you scroll to the right, you got other stuff like ownership projections, which comes from SaberSim. Eventually, we might have more of our stuff on the site too, but SaberSims are awesome. Gives you another data point when you're building lineups. And then as you work your way to the right, we got the ability to see upside of players. 85th percentile, 99th percentile. You can see the upside of some of these guys. And then just to prove the point, you can build 150 lineups very quickly. Go up here to build lineups. Gives you a bunch of cool options that we'll go through as we start getting used to this and putting content out. But you got GPP, cash, multiplier, satellite option. For this, we're just going to do GPP. I'm going to show you how quick we can make 150 teams. But also, you got single entry in here, 3 max, 20 max. Just a ton of cool options to show you guys as we get going. How many entrants are in the field you're playing, put that in there. Bunch of cool stuff like correlation, ownership, variance with the sims. Tons of stuff that you're going to be able to use. I'm going to run 150 teams here and show you guys just how quickly you can run 150 with this optimizer. So as you can see, 150 teams took me about 30 seconds. And once you have more time, you can play around with the numbers, really get them where you want them. But I was just trying to show how convenient it is. You got your optimal team right here. Shows you how much salary you used, projected score, SaberSim score, which kind of shows you your upside type thing. Tons of stuff on here. Total ownership, 267%. So a chalky team right there. But again, as we get more comfortable with the system, you'll be able to tinker a lot more. And tons of stuff up here too. If you want to play an upside team, you can click 99th percentile. It's going to run again for you. Give you an upside team here, more upside. Tons of options though. As we get going, we're going to do tons of content. All of our shows are going to be using this. I'm going to be using it personally to build my tournament teams. Super excited to get going with SaberSim and get this partnership going to make the content we do even better going forward.
And just a reminder, you can access all of the Rumpure premium content for all sports, along with SaberSim optimizer and projection system for the low monthly price for a limited time. Just use the promo code SABER15 while signing up to get this deal. Don't wait, sign up now, and of course, let's Rumpure.
What is up, everybody? Happy Monday with the usual crew, Mangone, Hoop. Mondays are one of my favorite days of the week. Obviously, Saturdays with MMA, Sundays with Free Money Sunday, but Mondays you get the big NBA slate, 9 games today. Then you get the Showdown too, so lots of money up top. Good Showdown game too, Hoop. I'm excited to get into it. I'll go right over to you. I mean, got the Cardinals, got the Rams. I know you've been heavily invested in the Rams season long, but it's been looking a little rough lately. Jalen Ramsey goes down, as we saw with COVID recently. Tyler Higbee's not playing. What are your initial thoughts on this game?
Makes it very interesting. You know, Ramsey obviously is a boost to the Cardinals passing game, and then you get Higbee out as well. So we're going to have some cheap tight ends, and then a boost to the regular wide receivers for the Rams. And then on the Cardinal side, no Chase Edmonds, which is pretty big as well. So makes the slate really interesting. The prize pools are massive. Anytime there's one of these more premier type games or marquee type matchups, they bump the prize pools. And today they have some massive prize pools. Definitely looking forward to that. Yeah, it's kind of weird though for like DFS players at this time of year, how Monday, like everyone hates Mondays, but DFS players love Mondays. You get the NBA, you get a good, Monday night game. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. It's going to be a fun night for sure.
Yeah.
And on top of it, I mean, before go ahead, get man going.
No, I know what you want to do. Well, the floor is yours.
Yeah, if you watched the show yesterday, just Big T just gets absolutely owned on the Hunter Renfrow call. I mean, it just came down to basic mathematics. Like Hunter Renfrow, you knew he was getting somewhere between 8 to 10 catches, 100 yards in the spot playing from behind. And your boy Hoop made the argument like, hey, if he scores a touchdown, he's getting 30. And these guys like Big T and Tambo was kind of on my side for a few, if you guys watch that show. And then like Big T starts saying no upside for Renfrow. Complete freaking bullshit. Like, man, it came down to math. Like I said, if he scores a touchdown, he's getting 30. Scored a touchdown, got us 30. You needed him yesterday. Took us to the winner circle. It was a good day on DraftKings for, Renfrow alone. But I'm having trouble locating this freaking jersey. I had one, the Renfrow jersey. I had one lined up on Amazon, went to buy it, unavailable, reached out to the local sports shop. They said no. So, I mean, honestly, I'm at the point now where I need help. So if anybody has access to a Hunter Renfrow jersey that can get it to me and get it shipped, I'll pay for everything. I'll give you some extra cheese. I'll give you a ticket or something on DraftKings. I need to get this jersey. It's impossible to freaking find. There's been a couple, like you can tell they're replica nasty ones. I just want like the NFL one, like a Nike or whatever, just something legitimate. If you have access to Hunter Renfrow jersey, please contact me. I'll get you a ticket and reimburse you obviously for all the expenses. Need to make it happen.
You heard it from Hoop. A lot 250 watching in here. Someone can get Hoop a Hunter Renfrow jersey. Big T, that's called math. Come on, Big T. 30 P's. Didn't even backdoor it either. Hey, that's my fault as the host. I should have brought that up right away, Hoop. I'm glad you said something.
No, it is. We got it in there.
Big T, Tambo, you got to take the L on that one. Hoop got it done. The people are loving it too. I saw a lot of people tailed. Mangone, how was your Monday? How was your Sunday last night? How are you feeling a little better? Talk to the people.
It was not a fun weekend. So Title, I was actually going to buy this card. Like I was excited for a UFC card, which never happens. And I was like, I'm going to buy the card. Like maybe I'll have some people over. No, I was like dead all weekend sick. I got the purple drink trying to get me better. So we're pretty good. The voice is in better shape. I feel like I'm on like the tail end of the recovery. So ready to kind of grind and get back after it because it has not been a fun weekend, but I'm ready to get into some NBA. We got tons of news flying, big slate. And, I didn't have a bad night in NFL last night. It wasn't incredible. I wasn't on the Big T plays. I wasn't on the show, but I had Mercedes Lewis, so he helped me get the job done. It was a nice little value play, help some other people out. So I'm on the K Phallic core as well. I'm sure K Phallic is on some kind of extravagant trip because he's like #so rich. So I'll be giving some cores out there. And then, of course, we'll be bringing the NBA winners for this nice little slate.
Yeah, I saw someone on Twitter won a good chunk with Mercedes Lewis from your call. So nice call there. Hopefully today's game is as much fun as last night's game. I mean, Bears-Packers, that was a lot of fun for the first half. Second half wasn't as much fun. Before we get into members never win in basketball, quick prediction from both of you. Hoop, who are you taking today? Give me a score. Who's going to win? What's the score?
I mean, I've been on the Rams and I'm invested long-term on the Rams, so I'm sticking with them. I think they have a chance to be, one of the better teams in the NFC. But, the concern is Matthew Stafford at quarterback. And, people were hating on me when I said, Goff to Stafford is like, the same thing. Like they're the same type of player. those people are starting to look a little suspect now because there does not appear to be much of a difference in terms of winning football games, I guess I should say. So we'll see if Stafford can turn around. I'm gonna give him one more chance tonight. Give me the Rams. We'll say I think it's going to be high scoring. I mean, 32-27.
32-27 Rams. Mango, what do you got tonight?
I don't know exactly what's going to happen in the game, but I did bet. Did you guys see the guy on Twitter? I thought it was interesting. He did a single game parlay and he bet Grant and the Bears D to score a touchdown. And it was like $200 to win 48K. And I was like, that's just one event happening, right? I mean, it's just a kickoff return for a touchdown because it's defense and special teams. So I have my money on Rondale Moore and the Cardinals D to score a touchdown because I figured, hey, why not? I don't think it's a terrible single game parlay. So I took a little shot on that. And I'll obviously be, I'll be looking at the Showdown stuff a little bit later. Slower start to the day, but I mean, I don't think the Rams are just like set, right? I think the Cardinals are going to make this game competitive. I think it's going to be close. And I do think we're going to have a really fun game to watch. And I'm hopeful we get Peyton Manning and Eli today. Or do we know if they're going to be on the broadcast tonight to at least have a good time? And I know Title won't be watching.
You're talking to neither of the right guys for that question.
Yeah, I haven't tuned into one of those yet. I mean, people are speaking highly. I told you guys what I do for the primetime games. I record it, wait about an hour, start it, and then just fast forward. I mean, watching an entire football game, I literally can't do it.
Hoop, again, I told you how you can do it. Just record the ESPN2 one, just make sure it's on. And then from there, you can fast forward it and hear it in the background too. It's not like they just not like when the play is going on, they stop talking. They still have a good time. I'm going to get you on it at some point, Hoop. And the second you watch, you're going to be in, man. Like, hey, it's like you hanging out with a bunch of dads, two football players you love watching growing up. Yeah. You're going to love it. I guarantee.
I don't know if I'm going to get there, to be honest. I got my strategy down where I record and just fast forward. I mean, NFL is just so many damn breaks, but yeah, with them commentating, maybe it's a little more entertaining.
Oop, I don't think Mangone's going to get you on that. Mangone, though, yeah, that Grant bet was pretty crazy. You got the Rondale Moore double dipper today. If anyone wants to tail that from Mangone, you got a free bet for him.
It can win two ways, Title, right? Moore can score and then the defense could score. It doesn't have to be that way. So I don't know. I thought it was fun to do. And I was like, that's just crazy that a dude put $200 and won 48K. Like, I would much rather bet that single game parlay than do like a showdown for it. You know what I mean? Because that's a super long shot kind of guy. Mine wasn't as big because Rondale Moore has a bigger role than Grant, but I thought it's something interesting to look at for sure going forward with some of these.
Yeah. I didn't even see that, but I mean, 200 to 48,000. What? I'll take that any day. For just all has to happen is a kickoff or punt return for a touchdown. And if it's like a guy that's like super talented and it's just like, I don't know, it seems crazy that they offer the single game parlays, but yeah, I mean, obviously it's one of those things you can't do in every spot. Like I looked at the Rams side, like I think Cooper Kupp's the punt returner and Ben Skoronic's the kick. Like you can't take that there. It's like too difficult. So Grant's like the perfect guy, super dynamic guy that if he just breaks one, he's gone. He's so fast. Most definitely, for sure. That's enough football talk, though. We got to get into the Members Never Win segment. Members won over $2.2 million last week, an absolutely insane week. Headline with the Showdown show, Whistles Go Woo, BigT, JSU. Lots of winners in that. But getting into some names, Swint won $20,000 in MMA. I know you had Nunez in that lineup too, Swint, so congrats to you. We got Big Mike, $7,000 in NFL, CB389, $10,000 in NFL, Anger Tornado, $13,000 in NFL. Then the man, 11, $100,000 in NFL. Saw that on Twitter and Discord. Congrats to all of you guys. And then our guy, Bobby Gomes, got a live final seat yesterday. I think he took 1-2 in that too. 75,000 or something, live final seat, Bobby Gomes. Congrats to you, big scores. Appreciate you guys all hanging out in chat. What's going on, Anthony, Kevin, Duarte, Nadesify, Craig, William? Hope you guys are all having a good day. We got 9 games on this NBA slate, though. Little bit of news we got to talk about. I say we dive right into it, though. We got the Sacramento Kings, the Toronto Raptors, 221.5 total. Toronto is favored by 5. They're without some big man, though. Precious Achiuwa and Kent Birch are out. OG Anunoby is also out. Hoop, I'm going to go to you. Talk about this spot. Toronto's a little shorthanded. Chris Boucher has been someone we targeted a lot recently. Break down this game.
Yeah, I think we got a few options here for sure. I mean, Boucher definitely in play here, likely to play upper 20s in terms of minutes, and it's the same story with Boucher that all throughout his career in terms of like DFS and fantasy. As long as he's getting decent minutes, he has a chance to put up a big boy score. We haven't seen the massive output games, but very safe option. 4-3 on DK, 5K on FanDuel. I think he's a fine option on both those sites. The rest of the price tags are somewhat rough, I think, for the Raptors. One guy, though, that does stand out, I think Gary Trent Jr. at 6K is a fair price tag. We know Nurse will run these guys, as many minutes as they can play. And he's got 39 and 39 minutes in his last 2 games. I see no reason why that stops tonight. 6K flat, good price tag for him. I believe he has the same price tag on FanDuel as well. And then in terms of the Kings, Harrison Barnes at 5.1K, I think is definitely a guy that we can consider. I mean, the minutes haven't been there under the new coach, but upper 20s, I think we can kind of count on at 5.1K. I'm willing to bet he can get there. There was a quote out there that basically they're going to be looking to move Marvin Bagley and Buddy Hield. You have to imagine maybe they try to get these guys a little bit more run to showcase them. So Marvin Bagley at 3.8K, I think is in the conversation. And really, I mean, why haven't they been playing this guy? Like, they have a shitty roster. He's a young guy. Get him some run. 3.8K, though, I think we can definitely look to him. Halliburton at 5.7 is interesting. So like Boucher, Gary Trent Jr., Halliburton, Barnes, Bagley, kind of the guys I'm looking at in this one.
Yeah, Rashawn Holmes is also out too. So Luke Walton was the reason with Bagley. We think he's got more run. He's 3.8K. No Rashawn Holmes. They're going to need him to play some minutes. So I like that call. I think Barnes is too cheap. Halliburton's a good price. I agree with you there. Mangone, going to you. Talk about this side or both sides of this game. I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you definitely can't ignore this game on the slate. It's one of the earlier games to start, but we can kick it off with Marvin Bagley. I agree with kind of the stuff Hoop's saying. They are going to get him some more work. I do think that's going to hurt some of these other guys. Like, you can make arguments, Alex Len starting. Like, sure, it could work. It could work out, but there is risk to it, which I think sometimes people don't embrace, that there is the opportunity where it can fail. It could also go a bit smaller, where Marvin Bagley ends up playing at the 5 and then they put Barnes at the 4. I mean, that certainly could happen. So that's something to be concerned about. I think Halliburton's fine, but ultimately, if you play any of these Kings, there's risk that comes with it. They could lose minutes. There's routes where there's other guys that are playing, just get a higher usage. Like, they only play with one ball. And it's like, with Bagley, Barnes, Halliburton, Fox, like, don't get me wrong, one of those guys could do really well, but one of them two of them can easily bust and like ruin your entire night. So think about that kind of when you're rostering your lineups. I think that matters. I do think that Marvin Bagley at 3.8K is in play and in the conversation for me. But on the other side, I have way more interest in Chris Boucher at 4.3. I feel much safer about him. He gets to go up against the Kings, a team that we can attack. They're also playing at a faster pace. It looks like he's back in the good graces of Nick Nurse. He's been talking like he's playing a little bit better and he's, improving. So it does seem like right now, Nick Nurse is going to lean on him as long as he's in the starting lineup. I always say it. Nick Nurse puts his starters out there. That's who he's leaning on. It's plain and simple. So if for some reason Boucher is not in the lineup, would I be concerned? Slightly. And on a slate where we have a lot of value, I would think about it for sure. Well, should I even play him now? There could be risk to it, but I do think he's obviously going to start. They just don't have anyone else left. They're just at that point. So I do think Boucher is the best value in this game. And then from there, I think there's other guys you can take shots on, but I do think there is some risk with them. And then in tournaments, like a really low-owned Fred VanVleet, Pascal Siakam, like even a Gary Trent Jr., they're definitely in play as guys you can mix and match for like a low ownership play within your lineup. But that's really it.
Yeah, I think Gary Trent's a little interesting. Played 38, 39 minutes the past 2 games, had put up good scores. He's going to get the minutes, 6K on both sides. He's shown a ceiling. I think he's interesting too. He'd be my second favorite Raptor. But yeah, I think you can play Siakam. I think it's a game that's pretty good. There's 3 games that lock at 7 Eastern. We have some news. So I think it's going to get some ownership to guys like Boucher in that, but I don't expect it to be too highly owned. I think it could be a game stack that gets interesting. Before we get into the next game, 390 watching, 124 likes. I haven't mentioned anything about the likes yet either. We appreciate 125 people hit it already. But if you could do us a favor, hit the like button for us if you haven't hit it yet. Hit that subscribe button. Get the alerts to when we go live. We appreciate it. Next game, we got 9 games to roll through. Second game that locks at 7 p.m. Eastern, the Miami Heat, the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers are favored by 5.5, 208 total. Bam and Jimmy are still out. Caleb Martin's out in health protocols. Markieff Morris is still out. They're shorthanded. I mean, PJ Tucker, this is not a PJ Tucker that I remember. He's putting up 34, 40 fantasy points. The peripheral stats are always there. The price tag's still good at 4-1. I wouldn't hate that. If you want to go Duncan Robinson, Strauss, Vincent, I think it's okay, but I don't really think you need to do it on this slate. Hoop, I'll go back to you. PJ Tucker, but do we really need it on this slate? What do you see in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to buy the PJ Tucker like explosion games here. I mean, I'm going to count on those last two being fluky. We'll see though. I'm just not going to play PJ Tucker. I'm going to look to Kyle Lowry and I guess maybe Hero on FanDuel. I mean, Hero, what's happened? Like I haven't been following super closely, but man, he's been pretty bad for a few games here in a row. And
missing shots.
Missing shots and stuff. Yeah.
7 for 18, 3 for 9, 4 for 17, 7, 16.
Yeah, that 3 for 9 kind of weird. He only shot it 9 times. Like he was just not very aggressive at all. But 6-4 on FanDuel, I think, is definitely in the conversation. You'd think without Jimmy Butler, it would be slam dunk play. Just hasn't been the case. But you get that nice price break on FanDuel. And then Kyle Lowry, he has been playing pretty well. 6.9K on FanDuel. I think he's a guy that we can consider at the position. Outside of that, though, probably not going to be playing much else on the Heat side. And then on the Cavs side, just not a team that I'm really into when they're close to full strength. And that's kind of what we have right now. So really, it's going to be Lowry and Hero for me. More on FanDuel, though, where they're priced much cheaper.
Yep, definitely makes sense. Mango, I'll go to you. And then Anthony in chat asks about Mobley. So talk about Mobley in this game too.
Yeah, definitely can't ignore Mobley. I think he's definitely fine. He's probably his pricing on FanDuel has been better than DK, but actually maybe that's flipped lately because I know he had a really big game. He's 7-1 on DK, and then FanDuel he was 7-5 this weekend. He is 7-5 again, so he's fine. It's not a priority for me. This is going to play a bit slower, right? It is a 208 total, so I am going to think about it on this slate if this is a spot that I really want to go to. I do think if you look at the Lowry, he's a really great play. Prefer him on FanDuel at that 6.9 price tag compared to the DK. That's 8K, but he is a good play. Gabe Vincent, I like a little more on DK. I don't mind him at 4.2. Duncan Robinson, the question is, will his threes be falling? If they are falling, yeah, you could have a massive game. If they're not, though, I mean, the floor is low. That is worth mentioning. So it could go really poorly for him. And then PJ Tucker, yeah, he's been a lot better. And it's just because, like, the guys he's around, right? He's around guys like Duncan Robinson. He doesn't get any peripherals, like assists, rebounds. He doesn't get much of that. Dwayne Dedmon, he doesn't even do much of that either. I mean, he gets some rebounds, but he's just one of those guys that's not a high usage guy. And like when you're not playing with James Harden, or Giannis, like Jay, you're not staying in the corner as much. You're just doing a little bit more on the floor, and they just need him to step up a bit because he's one of those veterans and playing next to these other guys. It makes sense that he's done better. But can you play him on DK right now? His price tag is 4-1. I think he's in play, but he's not a priority. There's some other better values on the slate, but he's definitely not someone I would say is a bad play. On FanDuel at 5-1, don't like him as much. And then, Tyler Hero, man, it has been rough for him as of late. The problem is he's coming off the bench. Now, if he randomly is starting, man, I'll definitely boost him up a little bit and have more consideration for him in cash games. But until then, I just don't think I need to go there, especially on this slate.
Makes sense. Our boy Slick Derulo said, if Tucker beats me, he beats me. I don't think that's a guy that you can go wrong having that philosophy. He definitely is getting a little bump without Jimmy and Bam. And yeah, the rebounding department, like you said, they need him to rebound more and be more aggressive, but it's still only 10% usage rate last game. He's still not going to be jacking up shots. So don't think he's going to be too highly owned. I think he's fine as a last piece or something. Wouldn't go out of my way to play him. I think it mainly is Lowry and Hero to look at. Going to get into the next game, the Golden State Warriors, the Indiana Pacers. The Warriors are favored by 3.5, 213 total. I'm not seeing too much in this game, man. What do you see?
Yeah, this is definitely a game that's kind of tough to roster, I would say. I mean, yeah, Steph Curry could easily be going for that record. Like it's nice, it's fun, but I don't think it's the correct slate. I don't think the pricing is right at 11.4K. That's just one of my issues on this slate. Sure, I think you can get like double bigs in, but it's just a really good slate overall for value plays. And like Jokic is just a better play than Curry today. I'm sorry. I mean, in tournaments, if you want to get like a really low Curry, sure, you can, but understand that it could go wrong and it could just definitely hurt you and ruin your lineup. So I think that's the only guy I would be considering in tournaments on the Warriors side. And on the Pacers side, I just can't get too excited about a lot of these guys. I mean, Chris Duarte, you can make a case at 4 or 5. There definitely is upside at the price, but he is dealing with other options that are going to be cutting into him. I mean, it's really tough to roster these guys right now. Also, the Warriors, they've been a lot better defensively this year compared to past years, and especially in the half court. It's like, it could be a really tough matchup for Indiana, and the game could get out of hand early where the game just could blow out too. So I think there's better spots to go to on this slate where I just don't want to mess with the Pacers side. It's just unnecessary to me.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Jokic over Curry. Nothing's really standing out to me. Maybe a Brogdon on FanDuel I think would be fine. But Hoop, what are you seeing in this game?
Yeah, I mean, on the Warriors side, it's really Steph Curry or nothing, and I just don't want Steph Curry on the slate. I prefer the other spends over him by a pretty wide margin. I mean, just not a super appealing spot. On the Pacers side, kind of a tough team when they're at full strength, and they're kind of there right now. I mean, the starting lineup, there's just like a lot of guys that need the basketball, like Brogdon, Duarte, LeVert. A lot of times the ball goes through Sabonis. Turner will jack up threes. So just not the most appealing situation. You kind of have to play the price points. And all right, you look at a guy like Duarte, who's pretty cheap on DK. Well, we got these Clippers guys that are similarly priced in much better spots without Paul George. Brogdon on FanDuel, I think, is the one exception, a guy that I would consider playing, not build around, but if I just had that amount, whatever it is, 7-3, I'd play him, but I'm not going to go out of my way to play him. And then Sabonis on DK is like 9-7. LeVert's come up a little bit, just not a game I'm going to really be on here tonight.
Two people mentioned the Brissett guy. I don't know if Carlisle was watching the show when we did it. I think ever since I talked about he should get minutes, he's played in every one, 17, 20.
He's definitely watching Rick Carlisle.
Yeah, I don't know what else it could be. He's just not playing, and then he turns it on, sees that he's got to play the man. Min price $3K. I don't think it's the right slate personally, but people are asking about a Hoop. What do you think about Brissett?
Not the slate.
Mangone, you want to take it?
Yeah, I know.
Not the slate.
It's not the slate, like you said. And two, they said he's like earned himself into some minutes or whatever. So like, cool. It's great.
For me, I helped him out for sure. Because right when I
said you know what? You should get a portion of his contract for, his next contract that he gets. Title should have some rights to it.
I agree.
Well, I don't know if I'd want to take that because then you might have the Indiana Pacers record on your sheet, and that record might not be good by the end of the year. So that'd be the only concern I would have, Title. But when you try to get that next job, that might be a little asterisk next to your name. But it's just the wrong slate, obviously. But and it's a good slate. Like, it's worth mentioning. Like, that's why I was worried about those Kings guys a bit, right? Because this is a slate with a lot of really good value. Like, it does feel like one of those nights where like people are like, "Oh man, I got all the Flames next to my name, and I sold it in cash. Like, what's going on?" Like, it does feel like a really strong slate for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree for sure. We're going to get into the next game, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, the second one, the Warriors and Pacers as well. 7:30 Eastern. Can't have Pacers next to my name because I'm a Milwaukee Buck at heart, forever will be. The Bucks taking on the Celtics. Boston is favored by 0.5 point, 223 total. Mangone, I'm going to go to you. Not a game that I have a ton of interest in, really. Two relatively healthy teams, but we have Giannis, we got Tatum, Jaylen Brown is back. We got some big names, though. What are you doing in this game?
I was gonna say, like, how are the Celtics favorites right now? I'm like, that confused me. I was wondering if I missed any injury news here or anything.
No, I'm with you. I was thrown off by that too. Like, I just when I pulled up that game, I just expected the Bucks to be favored by like 5. Why is it like a pick 'em?
Yeah, I was thinking like with it being away, like maybe it'd be 3.5, right? Maybe like, but that's just a lot for the Celtics, man. Like this Celtics team, I'm not a huge fan of right now. Like, I'm betting
Title's Bucks right now. Fuck it, let's go.
At the end of the day, it's because their bench is just depleted. George Hill is out for today with rest. Wesley Matthews in health safety protocols. He's been in the rotation. They're getting Dante back soon. Not today though.
Doesn't that just mean more Giannis? Which would be
I was going to say, but then you're banking on Budenholzer playing him 38 minutes, which in a close game, maybe, but we've seen Budenholzer even some of these games not do that. I still like the Bucks side. I think you just bet on the talent there, but I don't think him playing 38 minutes because their lack of depth is now like a for sure thing going to happen. he just might play some of these
it
other
would depend
guys.
on Cousins minutes, right? Because if you're telling me there's a lot of Cousins minutes, Cousins sucks. So
Well, Cousins is definitely gonna play. I mean, 100%.
yeah, he's
They have
definitely
Pat, Rodney Hood, Cousins, and then guys they don't really like playing. Sandro's gonna have to get some minutes, you think?
It
I
is
don't know.
rough for sure. So it does depend on the minutes. I guess you are gambling a little bit with what Bud does correctly. So that's one of the concerns. But if the game does stay close and like Giannis plays a ton of minutes, yeah, like Giannis is always in play, and he's like a contrarian pivot off of like a Jokic, if you'd like. So I don't hate him as an option, but power forward center is pretty deep today. I think it's a position where there's a lot of guys that are kind of already taking up some spots. That's one of the concerns on the slate. I don't really want to mess with Drew and Middleton. They don't seem necessary. It's really Giannis or bust for me as like a contrarian stud pivot, I would say. I know Boston's been a lot better at bigs against the rim. So maybe that's one thing that they could do a good job of containing Giannis as much as possible. But again, he's like matchup proof, doesn't matter. On the other side with Jaylen Brown being back, it's like all these guys are priced up a bit too much where I don't think I want to mess with these Celtics. It just doesn't seem like a great spot to play them. So I'm out on the Celtics. And if I play anyone in this game, it's kind of similar to the other game. It's like, I just pay up for a stud to be contrarian, and it's Giannis or Curry basically in these last two games we talked about.
Yep, I'm with you. Kind of a stay away from me. Better real basketball game. Hoop, you going to get to Giannis tonight? You seen anything else in this game, or are you thinking kind of a fade too?
I did just bet the Bucks. All right, so I'm riding with title tonight. We're gonna get the Bucks to the winner circle. In terms of DFS, not the greatest. I mean, I think if deciding between Giannis and Jokic, I think I probably prefer Jokic. I mean, both of them. I mean, just to me, similar plays, but I'd say slight lean to Jokic. I'm not really going to play anyone else on the Bucks side. For the Celtics, I think you can look at Marcus Smart. I think is Jaylen Brown in?
Yeah, he's probable.
Oh, I thought he was out. Okay, maybe that's why it's closer, but still, I don't think. I just think.
I knew he was in, and I don't even think this team's terrible right now.
Yeah, they're just not a good team. I mean, yeah. So I don't know. I guess with Jaylen Brown in, it takes away from a lot of these other guys. Why is Marcus Smart popping then if Brown's in? Do you guys have any?
He's 5'6", playing point guard.
5'6", but like we're not playing. We usually don't play Marcus Smart unless like one of those two big guys are out, and then you got Schroeder on the bench.
I don't think he's a lock or any of that by any means. I think
he's popping. Yeah, he's popping on a lot of stuff, but yeah, I guess I don't like him as much as the projections do. Yeah, probably Giannis or nothing for me here, to be honest with you. But like I said, I probably prefer Jokic, but you can play both of them. There's a lot of cheap guys that you can play today. So there is a route to play two studs like Mangone kind of talked about earlier.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna get into the next game where I think there is some value. Before we do, hit the like button for us, please. We appreciate it. Houston Rockets, Atlanta Hawks, 7:30 p.m. Eastern game, the last one, 227 total. The Hawks are favored by 10.5. Bogdanovich is out for the Hawks. Solomon Hill's out for the Hawks. As far as Houston, Jalen Green and KPJ are still out, as well as Daniel House. So there's some value in this game, I think. Armani Brooks on the Houston side at 4.8K, I think makes some sense. Garrison Matthews, my boy, has been playing some pretty good ball lately, 4.5K. And then going to the Hawks side, if you want to go the Stars and Scrubs build, I think like Cam Reddish at 3.3, TLC at 3.2. Don't think they really get too much ownership, but I think the mid-tier build is going to be a little more popular, just going one stud. I don't see people paying two studs. You might need to land on a guy like a Reddish or TLC for very cheap. Mangone, I'll go to you. Talk about this game.
Yeah, it's a nice little Clint Capella revenge game. I don't know if you want to spend for that, but it is there. Capella can easily eat him inside. Rockets have been playing better, though. So I do expect Houston to be a little more competitive. Like 10.5 feels a little deep, too. But I do think that these Hawks are going to, put up some points, and I think the Rockets are going to do their best to keep it close. I think they're going to keep it a little closer. TLC could be a value that you mix in. I think Kevin Huerter is getting a little bit pricey, but Kevin Huerter definitely could have a ceiling game. I mean, it's in the range of outcomes for him. I don't mind Cam Reddish. I'm buying low on the price tag. I played him in the Brooklyn spot, so I'm a little sour on him because that was very frustrating, but it's definitely not a bad spot to look at Cam Reddish. So I would
low own too. Like I like low own Cam Reddish more than like a more popular Cam Reddish.
Well, he was low own last time, title. It didn't work out. But yeah, I'm with you. I like it low own too as well. It was a nice 2%, but hey, it did. The one worry I had was it sounded like the way the coach was talking was they were going to like ease him in maybe a little bit more. The problem with Cam Reddish is this is what his floor is. His floor is if he's not hitting shots, it's going to turn terrible. Also, if he's hitting shots, he might play himself into some more playing time. That's something that can happen. Like, for instance, Anthony Simons last night. Anthony Simons was hitting his shot. So what happened? Anthony Simons closed out the game. If he's not hitting his shots, he's not closing the game out. They're not going to put some guy in there that's like 2 for 10 from the field and not doing any other contributions on the floor. So like, it's just, if he does hit his shots, he's definitely going to be, getting some more time, which is something that's nice, but you have to understand the floor can definitely be rough with Cam Reddish. And then on the Houston side, Armani Brooks has been playing a lot better. The price has gone up though. One of the concerns, he's 4.8K over on DK. My problem is I don't know if this is like the correct slate. I think there's other guys that you can go to, like on the Clipper side that we haven't talked about yet. I also think there's other guards I'm already kind of putting into my lineups where I don't really need to go to Brooks. So in tournaments, I don't mind sprinkling him in, but I'm not loading up on him. I also don't hate Jayshawn Tate. The only concern I have with him, it does feel like with like Brooks and Eric Gordon sharing that ball more than KPJ, it just feels like he hasn't just been as successful, which is one of the things I'm semi-concerned about. So I think he's okay in tournaments to sprinkle throughout your lineups as like a small forward option, but I do worry about the ceiling not being as high as it used to be. So, and also watch out for DJ Augustine randomly starting at 3.2K. That could certainly happen because they did it the other day. So stuff to watch for in this game. And if you do think it stays close at 10-3, Trey Young is not a guy that I would ignore in tournaments.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Trey Young, I mean, he's been playing really, really good basketball as of late. You see 10.3K. We've seen him in the 9K range a lot, but he's definitely deserves to be a 10-3 player. You still get a discount from the Jokic and stuff of the world. Talk about Trey. I think he's interesting. I like John Collins price at 7.2, Jayshawn Tate 6.1. I think this game can be stacked pretty well. You have the cheapies, you have the spend ups in between. Talk about it.
Yeah, just a matter of if the Rockets can keep it close. And if they do, there's a ton of upside in this game. Trey Young has just been playing phenomenally well. We've been talking about him for a couple weeks now, playing a ton of minutes. Production is back to like 2 seasons ago when he was just like kind of going off all the time. 10-3. So, I mean, a little bit cheaper than Steph, Giannis, Jokic. If you have a lineup that finishes right here, I'd love just plugging in Trey Young and not moving anything else around. Kevin Huerter on FanDuel, 4.8K, going to play a lot of minutes. John Collins is in the conversation. Then on the Rockets, I mean, they have guys like Brooks has been going off. I mean, over 30 fantasy points in 3 straight games. Probably mid-30s in terms of minutes. Jayshawn Tate, the price kind of came back down a little bit. He's flashed a lot of upside this season. So, yeah, there's definitely options here. It's just a matter of if this game does stay close. And it's only a 10-point spread. I mean, I guess by only, I mean, it's not like one of these 15-point spreads that we've seen a little bit. So 10 is respectable, and I think the Rockets have enough guys where they can keep it close. So, yeah, I do like this game.
Yep, I like it. We're starting to get a little bit of news. Justin Holiday's out. Nothing too big, but Drew Carpenter said he said Holiday out, more minutes for Brissett. I know he's the guy on Brissett. So, hey, Drew, I'm cheering for you. I don't think I'll have him in my lineups today, but we'll always back Brissett. Hope it works out for you. Let's get into the next game, though. Philadelphia 76ers, Memphis Grizzlies. Philly is favored by 4, 210.5 total. And we have news on this Memphis side. Obviously, Ja's still out for a while. Brandon Clark's out. Zaire Williams out. But Jaren Jackson and Steven Adams are both questionable. That's going to change the whole slate. I mean, if they're both out, they are lacking bigs a lot. Xavier Tillman would slide into the starting lineup for Steven Adams. They're already without Brandon Clark. So Kyle Anderson would have to play big a little bit. This Memphis side would definitely be interesting. As far as the 76ers side, I think Joel Embiid is a spend up. You can do that. You can take the raw points. I don't think he'll be too highly owned. Outside of that, I'm not seeing too much. Hoop, what do you see in this game?
Yeah, I mean, this to me is kind of, well, the Grizzlies are the team of the slate, and we need to see what happens with these guys. That's why I'm kind of leaning towards backloading as much as I can. This game starts at 8 Eastern. We might not have the news when the slate locks at 7 Eastern. I want to be very careful about who I play in the games before this, if we don't have the news, because this is slate changing news. I mean, if Jaren Jackson and Steven Adams are out, like Tillman is going to be a lock button play. If one of them's out, he's probably a lock. If two of them out, yeah, they're going to have to play some small ball with guys like Kyle Anderson.
Isn't Bane questionable too?
Bane's questionable too. Yeah. So it's not only Jaren Jackson and Steven Adams, they added Baines like kind of at the end. So then you're looking at Tyus Jones, Dylan Brooks, like you're going to play 3 to 4 Grizzlies in your lineup if all those guys are out. If 2 of them are out, you're going to play a shit ton of Grizzlies. So this is the news of the slate. Like I said, I'm going to kind of be backloading, and this game is kind of smack dab in the middle of everything. So I want to be very careful about guys that I play early on. Yes, if I like somebody, yeah, like Boucher. Boucher's in that first game. I think you probably play Boucher, but I'm going to be careful with what I do early on if we don't have this news, because the Grizzlies could be very, very thin. I mean, they're already without Ja Morant, which is obviously huge. Could add a few more names to that list. Brandon Clark's out too. I mean, so they could be down a ton of guys. So yeah, like I said, news of the slate, and I'm kind of building my teams around waiting for this news too. And then on the 76ers side, not too much. I mean, Embiid on DK is priced up there with Jokic and Giannis. I prefer both those guys over Embiid tonight.
Yeah, so it's the only game that locks at 8 p.m. Eastern, which makes it interesting. And I didn't even see the Bane news, which makes it even more in consideration. Anthony in chat says we don't like slow-mo. Well, slow-mo is going to be in play if Bane, Adams, and Jaren Jackson are out. I mean, you're just going to want every Memphis.
There's no one out there that hates playing slow-mo more than me, but if both those guys are out, you'd probably have to consider them. I think he averages like 15 fantasy points when I play him. So just beware.
Hey, so fade him in tournaments. You play him in cash if he's on. That's how it goes. If you see that on the cash chart, but yeah, like DeAnthony Melton, he'd be the play. Like, yeah, this news. I mean, 3 named people on Memphis, and then Brandon Clark already being out. People might forget about that, but that's another name that gets minutes and produces when he's out there. Man, go and talk about this Memphis side. How are you approaching this on the slate? Because it's big news.
Yeah, well, it's pretty big news. And I think you can technically get away with a Kyle Anderson fade, possibly. Like, there's enough guys on this slate where you could pull it off if for some reason the news hits and a bunch of those guys are out, just because it's a loaded slate. There's a bunch of guys that you can play at the forward position already. I mean, Chris Boucher is a guy that obviously I like. I think Porzingis is certainly in play to add the hoops list of guys that he hates the roster. But you have Terrence Mann in the late game, who's a small forward. Like, there's enough forwards where I actually think you can kind of get away with the Kyle Anderson fade if you wanted to. Now, I'm not saying you should. He'll definitely be in play. It depends who's in and who's out. But I do think he's someone that you could get away with because the price is at 5.3, but he definitely can easily produce here in this matchup against the Sixers. And he could have a lot of ball handling responsibilities where he could end up turning into being kind of like the point guard on the offense or with the second unit, where he starts and then he comes out first and then he comes in and he's like running that full second unit. Tyus Jones definitely in play. Dylan Brooks, another great option that you can go to. They're just going to see a huge amount of usage their way. Dylan Brooks, he's in, right? I'm not wrong about that.
Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure. He dealt with the protocols. I think he was back the last game. They've been having guys in and out, so it's been confusing. One guy I want to talk about who I think is, if you tell me that Steven Adams is out and you tell me that that Jaren Jackson is out, I think Killian Tilly gets a really big bump at 3.1K. I don't know if it's necessarily a cash option, because the problem is there are routes where he could get in the early foul trouble. There are routes where maybe they go with some other guys. Depends on the starting lineup. That's always going to matter. But he was one of the first guys in when Jaren Jackson got in foul trouble the other day. And also,
the Gonzaga guy, right? Tilly?
Yep. And the coaches talked him up a bunch, right? It's like things you got to watch for during the season. Like Cam Thomas is a guy who plays for the Nets, got talked up by Nash. And then what do you know? Like, literally he's just been crushing since. Killian Tilly, he got talked up like 2 or 3 games ago, and he's been getting more minutes, 19, 17, 17. That can easily turn into 25 minutes. It could turn into 26, depending on who's in and out. Also, if Jaren Jackson is in, I do have concerns about Jaren Jackson, because he could easily get into foul trouble and lose that first rotation. I mean, he's going up against Joel Embiid. He might have to guard Joel Embiid. And if he has to guard Joel Embiid, don't be surprised. It's a really good slate with tons of good value plays. It's not like we're like starving for value plays and Jaren Jackson just sticking out like a sore thumb and you need to play him. That's just something to really think about at that price tag. Do you really want to roster with that foul trouble that could come into play? I'm definitely going to think about that when I'm kind of building out my lineups, because if it's between Jaren Jackson and Kristaps Porzingis, as crazy as it sounds, give me Porzingis, right? I know they're not the same exact price, but it's a similar type of conversation in that range that you're having. So it depends really who's in and who's out. John Conchar is another guy that I think he's like blowout proof and will get some run. If you look 15 minutes, 18 and 11 minutes, he's been a pretty decent producer. And I think he's a guy that will get run if some of these guys are out. Like if a Desmond Bane is out, I think he definitely will get a nice little boost that you'd want to consider. If you told me that Jared Culver was randomly starting, I would consider him because I think he's a decent producer if he's in the starting lineup. The problem is I don't think he's one of those guys that's going to get that boost. I do think if you see Adams out though, they're going to kind of sacrifice Xavier Tillman, make him start. He's a pretty good fantasy producer. And if he gets some fouls on him, it's like not the end of the world. They'll pull him and they'll find another route to go. So I think that he is the likely guy that starts if Steven Adams is out. And I think if Jaren Jackson's out, I think the likely starter goes to Tilly. And then don't sleep on Melton off the bench. He's another guy that could get a really nice roll boost on DK. Is only 4.7K. And I know there's a lot to talk about. There's like so many different intricacies of how this can go depending on who is in and who is out. And a lot of these different guys will get different types of boosts based on who sits here.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this game a lot, man. Going just said a lot of things, but this is the most important game on the slate. 3 key guys in the starting lineup that all are questionable. If they're out or depending how the news goes, it'll be crazy. If we don't get it on the Up to Lock show, we'll be in Discord. We're breaking it down. If you're not in there, you want to be a member and check it all out. Saber15 is the new code, Saber15. And if you haven't checked out Saber Sim, I don't know what you're doing. The optimizer is absolutely great. You get projections. You see where the public's going. You can make your tweaks. You want to go this way. If you're in 20 entry max tournament, they have settings for that. They'll get you dialed in 20, qualifiers, 150. So much there. It's really, really cool. If you haven't checked it out, Saber15 would definitely recommend doing that. And then hit the like button for us, please. About 500 watching, 190 likes. 250 is the number I'll say. 250 shouldn't be very hard, very easy to get. Hit the like, 250 is what we need. What's going on, Dwayne? Anthony, you see you a lot. Drew Carpenter, Rod's here. DFS Wolfpack, Gambit. What's going on, guys? We appreciate you guys hanging out with us. Next game, though, a game with some news as well. The Charlotte Hornets, the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas is favored by 2.5. 216 total, and Luka's out on the Dallas side. So obviously Luka's out. That's why Porzingis has been talked about a good amount. And on the Charlotte side, LaMelo Ball is out. Terry Rozier and PJ Washington are going to play. Plumlee still is out. Ish Smith still is out. When the best player on both teams and LaMelo Ball and Luka Doncic are out, I think we might have a little interest. Now, Charlotte's been depleted for a while. DraftKings finally priced them up right. So we're not just going to be jamming in 4 or 5 Hornets like we've done in the past. Hoop, going to go to you, though. Is there any Hornets you're looking to play? And then obviously Jalen Brunson, stuff like that. Talk about this Dallas side.
Yeah, the Hornets side a little bit tough because, like you said, they've been playing shorthanded for it seems like a couple weeks now, and obviously these guys were going off. They're all playing 40 minutes. Well, the prices have come up, and some bodies returned to the lineup here. Obviously, Rozier back. Is PJ Washington? What's his status? Is he still questionable? I believe. Oh, he's in, so he's going to play. Yeah, so you got more guys back, and the price is up. Makes it not the most ideal situation. Miles Bridges is probably the one I trust the most. He's 8K on DK. I think that's fair. Gordon Hayward, maybe a little bit of interest at 7.5K, but Oubre's been treating us very well. I just don't think I can pay 8.4 now that they have guys back in the lineup. So probably, Miles Bridges would be my favorite. Gordon Hayward, Cody Martin still like 5.2K on FanDuel, but his path to kind of going off is very thin now with like Rozier back. Unless they do something with the starting lineup that's a little funky and he's still in there. They've been riding their starters quite a bit besides the center position. So whoever starts at center, don't play them. But outside of that, everyone else has been playing like a lot of minutes. On the Maverick side, it's very easy. You play Jalen Brunson for sure. And then, Porzingis, I think, is a strong play. As well, 8K on DK, 8.5K on FanDuel. It can be a frustrating roster, there's no doubt about it, but no Luka. They're favored at home by 2.5, 3 points. It's a pretty good spot, I think, for Porzingis to have a really big game tonight. I do like him quite a bit.
Yeah, Anthony in chat said, Brunson's obviously going to play. What's his ceiling? 40? No, Brunson's ceiling's definitely way over 40 without Luka in the spot, I think. I mean,
yeah, he can go off. He's got triple-double upside. The guy does everything for them when Luka's not out there. If it's a close game, he'll play probably 38 to 39 minutes. he's got that 50-point upside in him for sure.
Yeah, I mean, good chalk in my opinion. Good ball player, good price. I think you just play him, you get different elsewhere. Is how I'm approaching it. As far as I mean, if you told me beginning of the year, so like certain prices that just stand out, Kelly Oubre at 8.4K is not a price I ever expected to see this year. But hey, if you're telling me 8.4K, no one's going to play him, obviously. If you somehow told me like the past 3 games, 46, 44, 58, you give me 44, I'll still plug in Kelly Oubre at 1% for 8.4, but I'm with you. I don't think this Charlotte side's a good spot to really target. KP, Jalen Brunson. Are we missing anything, Mangone? Do you have more interest on the Charlotte side or anyone on Dallas?
No, yeah, we can keep it simple. It's KP, it's Brunson. I mean, Hardaway Jr. is not terrible in terms because you know his upside can be. And I don't need to go to the Hornets. They're fine in tournaments to mix in throughout your lineups if you like, but prices have gone up. They got guys back, and there's other situations where, we need to be able to pivot. That's NBA DFS, on to the next thing. Like it was Hornets week last week. It's on to a different team, not a Hornets week for me.
No Moses Brown for either of you. Someone in chat said it's a no for me.
No.
Moses Brown.
What team's he on? I don't even know.
That's a no for who?
That's definitely a no for me.
All right, we're going to get into the next game. You guys need 30 more likes for the plays of the day. We have 2 games left. That should be a breeze. 9 p.m. Eastern, the Denver Nuggets, the Washington Wizards, 215.5 total. Denver is favored by 4. Kyle Kuzma's out on the Wizards side. And then we have news on this Denver side. A lot of the news we do have is late today as we got another big DeAndre Ayton's also questionable, which is in the late game. But for this one, Will Barton is questionable. Aaron Gordon is questionable. And JaMychal Green's already doubtful. So Aaron Gordon plays big for them. JaMychal Green's already a big. Jokic, I think, is clearly the top spend up on the slate if you are looking to go stars and scrubs. But I think ownership will reflect that. Outside of him, if Barton's in and Gordon's in, I don't have too much interest. I'm not seeing. Hoop, I'm going to you. What do you see in this game?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think Jokic is the guy that you spend up on. I think he's a phenomenal play, especially. I mean, if one of Barton or Gordon are out, then yeah, Jokic to me is a lock. You kind of just build around him and get him in your lineups. If they're both in, he's still probably my favorite spend on the slate. But if Barton's in, he's only 6K on FanDuel. I think he's a fine play. And it's one of those situations with Barton where, I don't care that he's questionable. I just play him at 6K. He gets a lot of minutes, handles the ball a lot for them. On the Wizards side, Spencer Dinwiddie, the price has come like all the way down on him. 5.2 on DK. I think he's in the conversation at 5.2, especially if you're like backloading and maybe the news doesn't break for us. Let's say although we're backloading and all those Grizzlies guys are in, I'd be fine playing a guy like Spencer Dinwiddie at 5.2K. Beal has a good price tag, 8.4. I haven't played a ton of Beal this year, but 8.4 for Beal. Close spread here. They struggle against the Wings and Nuggets. I don't hate going to him. But yeah, that would probably be it on the Wizards side. And just to recap the Nuggets, Jokic is a great play. If Barton and Gordon or just one of those two are out, he becomes like a building block for me tonight.
Yeah, man. Bradley Beal, probably the best real life basketball player. I just never play in DFS now. It's kind of, he doesn't get any peripherals. He just kind of fills it up. But yeah, Bradley Beal, 8.4. Mangone, what do you see in this game? Denver Nuggets, Washington Wizards.
Yeah, so there is news obviously in this game to like. I agree with what Hoop is saying with Spencer Dinwiddie being a good value, but Hoop, my question to you is: if Spencer Dinwiddie was a forward, would you be considering him today? That's my question to you.
No, and that's a good point because forward is loaded, and it could be even more. I mean, if Jaren Jackson and Steven Adams are out, forward is going to be absolutely like loaded up. And I get what you're trying to do here, pinpoint me on who. Again, we're arguing 2 different things. I feel like I
know. So the best part about it was I was going to bring it up in a different manner, but then you gave me the lamp. You're like, oh, I like.
Yeah, I mean, I threw the softball. I'm not like Big T where I'm gonna refuse to play into it. I'll play into it. Yes, forward is loaded tonight.
No. Let me give you another tougher conversation because this is one that we could easily run into. It could be like, let's say we get the Grizzlies news ahead of time, right? Let's say tell me, like, if you told me we get the Grizzlies news and we also get the Ayton news before lock, okay? McGee and Xavier Tillman are values you can play. Are you fading Jokic here? Even if you got, and let's say you got, and I know I'm like making all this like fake news that like who knows which way it's going to go. But the question I'm getting at is Jokic that good of a play that you take his raw points at center, or would you take those center values that could be really elite later on?
Easily the center values.
Okay, Hoop, what do you say?
I don't know. I mean, you look at, okay, if you play all these cheap forwards and centers, you're going to be forced to spend at guard. And
Correct.
I just don't like anything here. I mean, you pull up guard and so you get one slate out of the year where your positions matter. Trey Young, if you get the news, I mean, that's what, 7:30.
We're not going to get all this news like Mango saying, but
you can plan for this, right? Like to fall, like, and it's giving you, like, you could say this too. You could be like, it seems like a lot of people are playing Jokic today, right? So you could just say, what if I think that if this news hits right, and I'm playing tournaments, right? McGee and Xavier Tillman goes my way, I'm on a super unique path that like other people just aren't on. It's like an elite value path. That's great. So it's like something you can try and plan for and work out. And that's why I ask it, because it's something I don't think I'd be planning out my cash games, but in tournaments, you could certainly do it and understand like it could burn you and it could go the other way. But again, it is going to be a path where like if Jokic went for 65 and Trey Young went for 55, that could be the better path based on the way the values hit. So it sounds crazy, but it definitely could be a route that works out, because if those two centers both go for 30 and 40, it's better than Jokic getting that 65 because of how much like just great value those guys are at that 3 and 4K price tag.
Yeah, definitely agree. You have anything in this game, man? Do you talk about
those are the main
just
two
Jokic?
things.
Is it just pretty much Jokic and then full fade after that?
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, obviously, if like the news hits a certain way, there are guys that could pop out and be like good plays. Like you could make an argument for a Bones Highland.
What about Monte Morris? Someone in chat said that name.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but you just that's not a guy I'm planning for, right? Like Monte Morris isn't the guy to plan for. The guys to plan for, like if you're gonna make like I'm gonna plan for a route, I'd plan for JaVale McGee in the next game over a Monte Morris.
Yeah, definitely good point. So that game locks at 9 p.m. Eastern. The next game with the DeAndre Ayton news locks at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So it's an hour and a half, which makes the slate pretty tough. You have to come in this slate with the plan. The first stop, how are you handling the Memphis news if we don't get it? The second stop, talking about this Ayton news. Before we get it or into this game, we need 11 more likes to get to 250. If you haven't hit it, hit the like for us, please. 250 likes for the plays of the day. Last game of the night, the Phoenix Suns, the Los Angeles Clippers. Suns are favored by 4, 211.5 total. And like we're talking about, DeAndre Ayton is questionable. Devin Booker is also still out. So, I mean, without Booker, if Ayton's out, Chris Paul, clearly the best player on the team there. JaVale McGee, they got some role players. And as far as the Clippers, Paul George is doubtful. Nick Batum is questionable. So another game where the best players in Booker and Paul George are out. Could be Ayton as well. Reggie Jackson, 5'9". Terrence Mann, 4'4". Marcus Morris, 4'6". We're talking about going 2 stars maybe. That'll be unique. But Brandon Boston is min priced at 3K. Shooting guard and small forward eligible. I've been impressed with this kid. He was filling it up in the G League. They finally started playing him. His minutes now have been in the low 20s the past 2 games. I think that's interesting. JaVale McGee at 4K if Ayton's out. Man, I'm going to you. I went on and on, but this game could be very, very good if Ayton is out, I think. Talk about it.
Yeah, it could be massive, like, because McGee, I mean, he's just going to absolutely crush it. They're not going to play Jalen Smith a million minutes. The one route that could happen.
He's also questionable, by the way.
Yeah, that's true. And also, they could go more small ball too, right? Like that is, I think the other day it was one of those routes where like they just couldn't go as much small ball. They could go a little more small ball here against the Clippers, and the Clippers could easily agree, like, okay, let's bring out our small ball lineups, which that's great for a guy like a Marcus Morris, right? I think Marcus Morris is certainly in play and has some
Crowder Morris both at the 5s and just playing old school ball or new school ball. I'd like that.
It certainly could happen tonight. You can even put Cam Johnson there at the 5. I mean, there's definitely routes where that could be the case. So it would not shock me, which that'd be good for Brandon Boston, who's an interesting value on this slate. Good for these guards, Reggie Jackson, Kennard, Bledsoe, all these guys. They're all in play to get good run. The nice thing about if you do plan for the JaVale McGee news, you likely have him at your utility slot. and you have a bunch of pivots that you can go to. I mean, that's just like the thing that's really nice about it. Like all you got to do is pull up DK, go to that game, click both the games, make sure you're just on that one only. You can easily do this in SaberSim as well. If you haven't signed up, use that code SABER15, get you 15% off. You can do it in there and look at the projections that we got. But McGee, he's at 4K. And then who are the other guys that you can go to as pivots at 4K? Well, if you leave $400, you can go Terrence Mann. You can go to Eric Bledsoe at 4K. Landry Shamet, who would fit in those small ball lineups. You can just leave the salary on the table if there's no McGee and go some other options, like a Boston Jr. If you don't have him in your lineup, he certainly could get there.
Or maybe you have 400 left in your lineup to get like a Terrence Mann or something that you're saving for. Or
yep, exactly.
Planning for.
Yeah, you can plan for that. So there are routes where planning for McGee is a lot easier, where the other day planning for McGee was not as easy because it was an island game at 10 o'clock against the Boston Celtics. And there weren't a ton of things that you could pivot to if you only left one spot. There was so much good value on the slate where you were like, okay, am I going to leave 2 spots for this? Is this that much worth going for? So ultimately, I just think this is a game that you can easily plan for and want to get some exposure to because it's a good game on this slate.
Yep. I definitely agree. The last name, someone in chat asked me, wait, who was that? Blake, do you like CP3 title? I think CP3 is interesting. I don't think he's really going to be played. He's 8.3K. It's in this mid tier. I think Trey Young will be more popular and spending up there. If Ayton's out, now they're without. Ayton doesn't mean as much, but he still gets some low post isolations. I think Chris Paul in this last game makes sense if you want to stack it out and wait for the news. I think this is a very, very good game. Obviously, we won't probably know about Ayton early, but what are your thoughts on this game at first?
This game's the reason why I'm okay backloading today, because if the news doesn't break our way for the Grizzlies or the Nuggets game, we have this game to fall back on, and I'm fine playing, a bunch of different guys here. We got the Ayton news that we're waiting on with McGee. If Ayton's out, then we can go to Chris Paul. And then on the Clipper side, we already know Paul George is likely to miss. We have 4 or 5 guys that I think are in play over there. Reggie Jackson, Terrence Mann, Morris, Zubac if you need to. Even if you're totally jammed up, I'd be fine playing Zubac, Brandon Boston. So there's 7 or 8 guys that I'm okay playing in this game. If I have to stack this game because the news doesn't break my way, so be it. We'll just go that route. Crowder, you can add to the list. So many different ways to go in this game. That's why I plan on backloading tonight. Assuming we don't get the news. Maybe we do get the news. Like I said, the Grizzlies news is the most important. It's an hour after lock. Maybe we get it. We don't have to, really stress and go all night kind of switching our lineups. Thing is, though, tonight, if you do grind this news out, you probably have a pretty big edge. You got a big Monday night football. A lot of people not only play NBA DFS, but play NFL DFS as well. Got a really good game between the Rams and the Cardinals tonight. People might just give up on the news. If you're going to sit here and grind the news out, I think you have an edge tonight in NBA because there's a lot of big pieces that we're waiting on after 7 p.m. Eastern. So, long story short, in this game, really like this game from a fantasy perspective, and it could obviously get a lot better if Ayton's out. JaVale McGee just went off for 48 fantasy points the other night. He has big upside. So a lot to like here overall.
Yep. 3 for 3. This is definitely a good game to target. Have a plan with it. Definitely make good points. People don't like staying up till 10:30 Eastern waiting for this news, but definitely can change the whole slate for sure. Appreciate you guys all hanging out, chat. 270 likes. You guys smashed it. Plays of the day are coming. Anchor, what's going on? Snyder, I don't know if you saw who Snyder goes. Renfro is 7.3K on the Saturday slate. Still too cheap. There's Saturday football this week. It's a 2-gamer, so you can't play Renfro on the main slate, but 7.3 Renfro.
Way too cheap. Seriously. With all those guys out, he's an 8K receiver, so we're still getting a little discount. I'll take the $700 discount and move on. 30. What did he get? 35 yesterday. So I was saying 30 fantasy point upside. Now he's got 35 fantasy point upside. We're moving on up. Just look at the numbers, though. Levitan had tweeted out, and he's 8 for 110, 9 for 90, 7 for 130, and I got 2 guys telling me yesterday morning that he doesn't have upside. Just a baffling, just such a sorry argument, just such a sad argument. And like I said, in typical Big T fashion, he'll pretend like he never said it. He'll pretend like Renfro didn't get 30. You'll never hear him say, "Hey, Hoop, you were right. I was wrong." I'm holding his ass to it, though. I promise you. Next time we do a show together, his ass is apologizing to me. I promise.
Definitely cannot wait for that show when you got a Renfro jersey on your back. Again, if you guys missed the beginning, Hoop's looking for a Renfro jersey.
I think I'm on someone came through. My boy Marcus King came through. So he's working on it. He said he's got a connection. So I think it's getting close to Renfro jersey time.
Marcus King, shout out. I've seen you in this chat too. So shout out you helping Hoop out. I cannot wait for that Big T Hunter Renfro show with you on it though. Plays of the day time. I think it's that time. I'm going to go to myself first because it is in the last game we just talked about. I think he's going to be sub 10%. I'm going to go Chris Paul at 8.3K. They're without Booker. There's a close spread, so I think he's going to get the full run. No one's going to play Chris Paul in this mid-tier, and everyone's just going to go up top. He's showing the upside. Ayton also could be ruled out, which means he even needs to do more. I think there's a lot of built-in upside. And then if you have multiple spots and the news doesn't go the way you plan, you have money and you have flexibility that you can work with. So give me Chris Paul as the SO play of the day. Mangone, going to go over to you. You don't got the glasses on, but who's your play of the day?
Yeah, I've gone back and forth because I don't want to give like this chalky play. I feel like it's a tough slate, and I've looked at so many different guys to figure out what to go.
That's why I went Chris Paul. You 10% less. You know he won't be chalk. Give us a gem.
Oh man, then go to Hoop because my guys. I've looked up like 5 guys and like no one's below 10%. So if I'm going below 10,
all right,
you don't have to go below 10.
What
I'm gonna give.
Rich Parents play of the day.
Rich Parents play of the day. I'm gonna give 2. If you're just say fuck the news, I don't care. I'm playing guys at any time. Someone I like early at 7 p.m. Eastern. Gary Trent Jr. I think we see 38, 39, potentially 40 minutes in a close game, which is what he's been doing lately. And he chucked 17 shots, 16 shots, and a lot of three-pointers to come along with it. I mean, he's made 9 3-pointers in the last 2 games. Love Gary Trent Jr. if you're just not playing for and I think you can play him and still play for the news too. Really like him early on. Later on in that Clippers game, Terrence Mann I think is a phenomenal play. 4-4 on DK. No Paul George. He's kind of surpassed Dusty Ass Bledsoe at this point. So give me Terrence Mann. Gary Trent Jr., Rich Parents play of the day. 2 of them for you tonight.
That was the guy I was going to go with. I was going to go with Terrence Mann first. Then I jumped over to Marcus Morris because I was like, well, maybe he's lower owned. And then I guess because they're soaking up like ownership at the small forward spot. But let me give you a power forward too that I think is a really good spend up and it's a really good matchup and people won't go to him. How about let's go with John Collins at 7.2K. He has like 50-point upside at that price. Gets going against Houston, and it's like they're like the 3rd worst team against power forwards when it comes to giving up DraftKings points. And we know the upside that John Collins can have in these kind of matchups. So I think I'll go with John Collins as my low-owned play of the day. I don't think people will be on him at all.
John Collins, Gary Trent, Terrence Mann, CP3 are the 4 plays of the day. Appreciate you guys all hanging out with us. 9-game slate. We got NFL Showdown. Tons of stuff's going to be on the content tonight. Big night incoming, I feel. Saber 15 gets you 15% off. Check out the Saber tool. Make sure you get in Discord. If you're not a member, sign up. The Discord alone just pays for itself. Everything else is gravy. Thank you for hanging out with us. Saber 15. Hit the like on your way out. You guys smashed it. Hope you guys do well tonight. For Mangone, Hoop, Simon behind the sticks, I'm Titletown. Good luck, everybody.